Hey guys, Ryan here. Tonight we're not heading to a grand castle or a bustling market, but rather to a place where sweat, sparks, and sheer brute force define existence. Imagine pushing open a heavy, smoke-stained door, the kind that always feels a little too hot to the touch. The air inside hits you like a physical punch, thick with the acrid scent of burning coal and hot metal, instantly making your lungs feel a bit raw. A deafening clang of hammer on anvil vibrates through your very bones, rattling your teeth. This isn't some quaint artisan studio. This is the medieval blacksmith's shop, a place where you quickly realize you probably won't survive long without losing a finger, or at least your hearing. Before we settle in, if this resonates with you, hit like and subscribe only if you're here for more of this vibe. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. Gently lower the lights, switch on that soothing fan breeze, and come with me as we unwind into tonight's adventure. You step further inside, squinting through the gloom. The only real illumination comes from the glowing heart of the smithy, the forge. It's a roaring beast, a pit of fiery coals fanned by a massive bellows, pumping air with a rhythmic whoosh whoosh whoosh. The heat emanating from it is intense, a dry, oppressive warmth that immediately starts to draw sweat from your pores. You can feel your clothes beginning to stick to your skin, even before you've lifted a single tool. It's a constant, unwavering heat, a brutal baseline to every single minute you spend in this workshop. Forget air conditioning, your only relief is the brief, fleeting cool of a shadow, or perhaps a gulp of murky well water. The noise is relentless. The clang 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 of the hammer on the anvil dominates everything, echoing off the stone walls and making conversation nearly impossible. But it's not just the main hammer. There's the hiss and sizzle of hot metal plunged into the water trough, sending up clouds of steam that briefly obscure your vision and carry the metallic tang of cooling iron. There's the rasp of a file, the scrape of tools, the groan of the bellows, and the occasional shout from the blacksmith himself, trying to make himself heard over the din. Your ears, accustomed to the relatively quiet hum of modern life, begin to ache almost immediately. You realize quickly that sustained hearing loss is not a bug, but a feature of this particular career path. Look around the shop. It's not spacious or orderly. Tools hang haphazardly on pegs, their handles worn smooth by years of use. Piles of raw iron lay in one corner, heavy and inert, waiting for their fiery transformation. The floor is a chaotic mess of coal dust, metal shavings, and discarded scraps, a constant tripping hazard. There's no sophisticated ventilation system, no extraction fans. The smoke from the burning coal, thick and pungent, simply fills the space, mixing with the metallic tang of the hot iron. You try to take a deep breath, but it feels like you're inhaling the smithy itself. This isn't just unpleasant, it's a constant assault on your respiratory system, something we'll delve into more deeply later. You notice the blacksmith at work, a figure silhouetted against the glow of the forge, his muscles rippling under a sweat-soaked tunic. He barely acknowledges your presence, his focus absolute. His movements are fluid, powerful, a dance between brute force and surprising precision. He pulls a glowing piece of iron from the forge, its heat radiating outwards, making you instinctively step back. The metal, a brilliant orange-red, seems to pulsate with captured heat. He lays it on the anvil, and with a grunt, begins to strike. Each blow sends sparks showering into the air, tiny, fleeting stars that die almost as quickly as they are born, but you know that even a tiny spark can cause a nasty burn. One mainstream historical fact you immediately grasp is that the forge was the absolute heart of any medieval community. Almost everything from tools to weapons depended on its fiery work. Historians still argue whether the smith's craft was considered more akin to magic or purely skilled labor by the common folk. One quirky tidbit: some smiths would keep a bucket of sand or ash nearby, not just for spills, but to momentarily cool their burning hands when handling slightly cooler, but still hot, tools. This shop isn't just a workplace, it's a relentless, sensory onslaught that begins the moment you step through its door. The initial sensory assault of the smithy barely prepares you for the sheer grueling physical demands of the work itself. You watch the blacksmith, and then, almost against your will, you find yourself mimicking his movements, feeling the ache in your own muscles. This isn't a job you can phone in. It requires every ounce of your strength, day in and day out. Imagine swinging a heavy hammer, not just once, but hundreds, even thousands of times a day. Your arm, shoulder, and back scream in protest, yet the work continues, relentlessly. Each strike of the hammer is calculated, but it still requires immense force. You lift the heavy tool, feeling the strain in your lower back, then bring it down with controlled power, aiming for the glowing metal on the anvil. The shock of impact travels up your arm, jarring your teeth. And it's not just the main hammer. You might also be operating a smaller, lighter hammer for more delicate work, but even that, performed repeatedly, causes intense fatigue. Your hands, even gloved, feel the constant vibrations, leading to aches and numbness that linger long after you've stopped working. This isn't a gym workout where you can stop when you're tired. The raw material doesn't care about your muscle soreness. And it's not just the hammering. Think about the bellows. That rhythmic whoosh 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 isn't magic, it's powered by a heavy lever or chain that you, or an apprentice, must constantly pull. This requires sustained effort, working your legs, core, and arms, all while enduring the intense heat and smoke. It's a cardiovascular workout you definitely didn't sign up for. You're essentially doing continuous, heavy resistance training for hours on end, every single day. Your sweat, already pouring from the heat, now mixes with exertion, stinging your eyes and making your grip on the tools precarious. Then there's the lifting and moving of materials. Raw iron, often heavy and unwieldy, needs to be moved from the storage pile to the forge. Finished products, whether they are intricate hinges or heavy plowshares, must be transported. This involves significant heavy lifting, often without the benefit of modern mechanical aids. You're constantly bending, lifting, twisting, and pulling, putting immense strain on your spine and joints. It's a recipe for chronic back pain, joint degeneration, and a host of musculoskeletal problems. A quirky tidbit: some smiths would develop incredibly thick calluses on their hands, almost like natural armor, from years of gripping hot, rough tools. The work is also incredibly repetitive. You might be forging dozens of nails, shaping numerous horseshoes, or hammering out components for a single tool, repeating the exact same motions for hours. This kind of repetition leads to repetitive strain injuries, wear and tear on joints, and chronic pain. There's no ergonomic office chair or standing desk here. Your body is the machine, and it's being pushed to its limits. One mainstream historical fact is that blacksmiths were absolutely essential to medieval society, producing everything from farming implements to building hardware, yet the toll on their bodies was immense. Historians still argue about the average working lifespan of a medieval blacksmith, but it's clear it was shorter than many other trades due to the sheer physical brutality of the job. You might joke about arm day at the gym, but for a medieval blacksmith, every day was arm day, back day, and pretty much every other muscle group day, usually ending in complete exhaustion. As your muscles ache from the imagined hammering, a more immediate and terrifying aspect of the blacksmith's life becomes apparent: the constant danger lurking in every corner of the smithy. This isn't a modern workshop with safety glasses and fire extinguishers. This is a place where every mistake, every moment of inattention, could mean a life-altering injury, or worse. You are literally playing with fire and red-hot metal. First and foremost, there are the burns. The forge itself is an open pit of scorching coals. The metal you work with glows orange, sometimes white-hot. Sparks, as you've already noticed, fly everywhere. A single slip of the tongs, a moment of distraction, and a searing piece of metal could connect with your skin. Imagine the smell of singed hair, the instant blister, the agonizing pain. And remember, there's no modern emergency room around the corner. A severe burn could easily become infected in an era without antibiotics, leading to gangrene, amputation, or a slow, agonizing death. Even minor burns, which would be an everyday occurrence, would fester and ache, a constant reminder of the hazards. Then there's the flying metal. When you strike a hot piece of iron, especially one that might be brittle or improperly heated, tiny shards can splinter off with surprising force. There are no safety goggles here. Your eyes are completely exposed. A small piece of hot metal, propelled by the force of a hammer blow, could blind you in an instant. You can almost feel the instinctive flinch as you watch the blacksmith work, a silent prayer that nothing goes awry. Even without direct impact, the constant showering of sparks and fine metal dust is irritating and damaging to your eyes over time, leading to chronic discomfort and impaired vision. Consider the heavy tools themselves. Hammers, tongs, anvils, they are all massive and unforgiving. A dropped hammer could crush a foot. Tongs slipping could send a heavy, glowing workpiece tumbling onto your leg. The anvil, while stationary, is a solid, immovable object that offers no give if you accidentally strike your own hand. You're constantly maneuvering these heavy implements in close proximity to intense heat and sharp edges. One quirky tidbit: some smiths would tie thick leather straps around their forearms, not just for grip, but to offer a modicum of protection against errant sparks or the swing of a clumsy apprentice's hammer. Finally, there are the toxic fumes and gases. The burning of coal, especially lower quality coal, releases carbon monoxide and other noxious gases. In a poorly ventilated space like a medieval smithy, these fumes would build up, leading to headaches, dizziness, nausea, and in severe cases, unconsciousness or death. You might find yourself feeling lightheaded, attributing it to the heat, but it could be the insidious creeping effects of the gas. The constant inhalation of smoke, coal dust, and metal particles also wreaks havoc on your lungs, leading to chronic respiratory problems. One mainstream historical fact is that blacksmiths often suffered from a distinctive cough, known as Smith's lung, a clear indicator of the toll their environment took on their respiratory systems. Historians still argue about the exact life expectancy of blacksmiths compared to other medieval trades, but it's universally agreed that the physical dangers they faced daily significantly shortened their lives and guaranteed a painful existence. The smithy isn't just a place of creation, it's a constant, high-stakes gamble with your own body, a place where every day is a test of your vigilance against grievous harm. Beyond the immediate threats of fire and flying metal, you start to feel the insidious, long-term effects of the smithy's environment, the relentless assault of smoke, soot, and sickness. This isn't just a dirty workplace, it's a toxic environment, a constant battle against unseen airborne enemies that slowly, relentlessly, erode your health. The air itself is a heavy, perpetual haze. You breathe in coal dust with every single breath. It coats your lungs, accumulates in your nasal passages, and leaves a gritty taste in your mouth. Imagine spending every waking hour in a thick, smoky haze, like living inside a campfire that never goes out. This isn't just unpleasant, it's profoundly damaging. The fine particles irritate your airways, leading to chronic coughing and shortness of breath. Over years, this constant inhalation would lead to conditions like black lung disease, a debilitating illness that makes every breath a struggle, a common mainstream historical fact for coal miners and blacksmiths alike. Your chest feels tight, your throat perpetually scratchy. Then there's the soot. It's everywhere. It coats the walls, the tools, your clothes, and your skin. You try to wipe your brow, and your hand comes away black. This isn't just a surface layer, it penetrates your skin, settles into your pores, and stains everything it touches. Imagine trying to get truly clean after a day in such an environment. It's an uphill battle against a pervasive layer of grime that contributes to skin irritations and a general feeling of perpetual dirtiness. Your eyes are constantly red-rimmed and watery, irritated by the particulate matter in the air. The high heat, coupled with the constant exertion, also leads to chronic dehydration. You sweat profusely, losing vital fluids, and while you might drink water or weak ale, it's often not enough to replenish what you're losing. This constant state of dehydration contributes to fatigue, headaches, and can put a strain on your kidneys. You feel a constant, nagging thirst that no amount of liquid seems to fully quench. This environment is designed to dehydrate you, making your body work harder just to maintain basic functions. And let's not forget the exposure to noxious fumes. When iron is heated, and especially when certain impurities are present in the coal, invisible gases like carbon monoxide are released. In a poorly ventilated medieval smithy, these gases build up. You might feel a dull headache that never quite goes away, a constant lethargy, or even moments of dizziness. These are not just minor discomforts, they are signs that your body is being slowly poisoned. There are no detectors or warning systems, you just live with the subtle, insidious effects. A quirky tidbit, some smiths would keep a small, constantly burning candle near the forge, claiming it helped purify the air, though it was likely just a placebo against the overwhelming fumes. Historians still argue about the true respiratory health of medieval populations in general, but the specific ailments of blacksmiths are well documented. You might try to crack a window or open the door for some fresh air, but the reality is, in a medieval smithy, you are always enveloped in a cloud of dust, smoke, and fumes. It's a relentless, invisible enemy that you inhale with every breath, slowly but surely chipping away at your health and ensuring that a long, healthy retirement is almost certainly not in your future. You're not just shaping metal here, you're actively shortening your own lifespan, one smoky breath at a time. Having endured the heat, the noise, and the pervasive grime, you now turn your attention to the very instruments of your trade, the tools. Forget finely machined, ergonomically designed power tools. In a medieval smithy, your tools are simple, heavy, and often as much a source of strain as they are of assistance. They are extensions of your body, but they demand a brutal toll. First, there's the hammer. This isn't a lightweight claw hammer you'd use for hanging a picture. You're talking about hammers weighing anywhere from a few pounds to a dozen or more, made of solid iron. Their handles are often rough-hewn wood, unpadded and prone to splintering. Imagine gripping that for hours, feeling the constant vibrations traveling up your arm with each mighty blow. Your hands would be a mess of calluses, blisters, and perhaps even permanent deformities. There's no precision engineering here, it's about raw weight and brute force, controlled by your own muscle memory. A quirky tidbit, some smiths would custom wrap their hammer handles with strips of hardened leather, not for comfort, but to try and improve grip against constant sweat and to slightly dampen the bone-jarring shock. Then there are the tongs. These are your extended fingers, allowing you to manipulate glowing hot metal without direct contact. But they too are heavy, often unwieldy, and constantly battling the immense heat. You have to grip them with surprising force to keep the metal secure as you hammer it, leading to constant strain in your forearms and wrists. Imagine trying to hold a slippery, red-hot snake with a pair of oversized, clumsy pliers while someone tries to whack it with a mallet. That's a bit what it feels like. The tongs get hot themselves, radiating heat back into your hands, even through thick leather gloves. The anvil is your immovable partner, the solid foundation for all your work. It's a massive block of iron, its surface scarred and pitted from countless blows. While it doesn't directly cause strain in the way a hammer does, it's a constant reminder of the physical effort required. Every blow you strike reverberates through the entire structure, and a misplaced strike can send your hammer bouncing dangerously. Historians still argue about the precise metallurgical composition of medieval anvils, but it's clear they were prized possessions, often passed down through generations. They were built for durability, not for softness against your hammer blows or your accidental misses. Other tools like chisels, punches, and files are also crude by modern standards. They require constant sharpening and maintenance, a chore in itself. And imagine trying to make a precise cut or shape with a dull chisel, requiring even more force and increasing the risk of a slip. There are no power drills, no grinders, no hydraulic presses. Every hole you punch, every edge you smooth, every piece you shape, is done through manual effort, often with another blacksmith or apprentice striking the chisel or punch you hold. One mainstream historical fact is that blacksmiths were truly the original makers, creating virtually every metal object needed by their community, from nails and hinges to swords and armor, all with these basic, heavy tools. The lack of specialized, lighter equipment means that repetitive motions and heavy lifting are built into every single task, ensuring your body is constantly under duress. Your tools are your livelihood, but they are also your tormentors, slowly but surely shaping your body as much as you shape the metal. Beyond the physical grind and the constant danger, you quickly become aware of a subtle yet pervasive drain on your spirit, the social stigma and lack of true respect that often clung to the medieval blacksmith. Despite your absolutely vital role in society, you're not exactly invited to the Lord's high table. Think about it, your work is dirty. You are perpetually covered in soot, sweat, and grime. The smell of smoke and hot metal clings to you like a second skin. In a society that often equated cleanliness with godliness and nobility, your appearance immediately marked you as belonging to the lower strata. You're the guy who sweats for a living, whose hands are perpetually stained and scarred. This isn't the romanticized image of a clean-cut artisan, this is the reality of a working man whose trade leaves an indelible mark. You might hear whispers as you pass by, or notice people instinctively keeping a slight distance. It's not outright hostility, but a quiet, ingrained perception of your place. While everyone needed your services, from the farmer needing a new plowshare to the knight requiring weapon repairs, the respect for the craftsman didn't always translate into respect for the person. You were seen as a necessary part of the village machinery, but often as a tool yourself, rather than an individual of high standing. You provide essential services, yet you are still largely considered a common laborer, often just a step above the peasantry you serve. Your hands, though skilled, are considered working hands, not the soft, unblemished hands of a scholar or a lord. There's also the element of superstition. The blacksmith's craft, with its fiery forge, transformation of raw earth into strong metal, and sparks flying like captured stars, often brushed against the mystical. For some, this might have fostered a wary respect, almost as if you dabbled in a forbidden art. For others, it could lead to suspicion. You might be seen as someone who deals with elemental forces, a figure slightly outside the normal bounds of community, perhaps even dabbling in minor magic. This wasn't always a positive thing. It could make you an object of fear or distrust, particularly in more rural, isolated communities. One quirky tidbit is that some cultures associated blacksmiths with mischievous spirits or even the devil due to their manipulation of fire and iron, leading to stories of smiths having pacts with supernatural entities. Historians still argue whether blacksmiths were truly respected or merely tolerated in various regions of medieval Europe, as their standing varied greatly by location and time period. However, a mainstream historical fact remains: while a highly skilled blacksmith was indispensable, the profession itself rarely conferred high social status comparable to that of a cleric, a wealthy merchant, or certainly a noble. You provide the tools of war, the implements of peace, and the very structure of the village, yet when the feasts are held, you're likely eating at the furthest table, or more likely, back in your smoky shop, already planning tomorrow's arduous work. The irony is palpable. You forge the very foundations of their world, yet you remain, largely, in its shadow. As the days bleed into weeks, and weeks into years, the physical toll and social slight become constant companions. But now, another grim reality settles in: the economic chains that bind you, the constant struggle against poverty's grip. Being a blacksmith isn't a path to riches, it's often a tightrope walk on the edge of financial instability. Think about your income. You're not paid a regular wage in coin like a modern employee. Your payment comes in various forms, sometimes in coin, yes, but often in barter. A farmer might pay you with a portion of his harvest, a sack of grain, a few chickens, or a side of cured meat. A carpenter might offer to repair your roof in exchange for a new axe head. This means your income is incredibly diverse, but also unpredictable and difficult to convert into other necessities. You might have a barn full of grain, but what if you need new leather for your bellows, or more charcoal for the forge? You still need coin for those, and converting goods into currency can be a frustrating and often undervalued process. The demand for your work also fluctuates. While essential, there are seasons when work is scarce. During the harsh winter months, travel might be difficult, and fewer people are tending to their farms or building new structures, leading to a drop in commissions. This means periods of intense, back-breaking labor followed by lean times where you might struggle to make ends meet. There's no unemployment benefit, no savings account to fall back on. You live hand-to-mouth, constantly aware of the next lean season. This constant economic precarity contributes to a pervasive anxiety that underlies your daily grind. Then there's the cost of your materials. Iron ore isn't free, nor is the charcoal needed to fuel your forge. These supplies often had to be purchased from merchants or landowners, sometimes requiring long journeys to acquire. Any unexpected price hike in these raw materials could significantly eat into your already meager earnings. Imagine working tirelessly for a week, only to realize that the profit from your labors barely covers the cost of the materials you used. It's a cruel cycle, where the tools of your trade are also the biggest drain on your potential income. One mainstream historical fact is that blacksmiths often had to negotiate prices individually for each job, rather than having fixed rates, making their income highly variable and dependent on their haggling skills and the perceived value of their work. You also face competition. While blacksmiths were essential, in larger towns, there might be several smiths vying for the same limited pool of customers. This could drive down prices, forcing you to work longer hours for less compensation or to specialize in niche items to maintain your edge. You're constantly trying to balance the need to earn enough to survive with the need to keep customers happy and fend off rivals. A quirky tidbit is that some villages had a master smith who held a near monopoly on certain types of work, forcing other smiths to specialize in more common, less profitable items. Historians still argue about the typical wealth disparity among medieval craftsmen, but it's universally accepted that most blacksmiths, while never starving, lived a life of constant economic struggle rather than prosperity. Your hands might shape iron, but your life is shaped by the unyielding pressures of an unforgiving medieval economy. As if the physical torment, the constant dangers, and the financial tightrope weren't enough, you also contend with endless demands and a surprising lack of true appreciation. Your role as a blacksmith means you are indispensable, but this rarely translates into genuine gratitude or understanding of your tireless efforts. Think of the sheer variety of tasks that land on your anvil. One moment, you're forging a new plowshare for a farmer, a heavy, laborious piece of work crucial for the village's food supply. The next, you're hammering out a delicate hinge for a nobleman's chest, requiring precision and patience. Then, a knight arrives, demanding a quick repair to his armor or a new sword, often with an impatient air and the implication that his needs supersede all others. You're expected to be a jack of all trades, capable of turning raw iron into anything from a tiny nail to a massive gate, all with equal proficiency and speed. There's no specialization in the medieval world. You do it all, from the mundane to the magnificent. The problem is, while your work is vital, it's often taken for granted. People expect their tools to be fixed, their horses to be shod, and their weapons to be sharp. They might grumble about the cost or the time it takes, but rarely do they express genuine thanks for the grueling labor involved. You are a service provider, and in a hierarchical society, those who provide services are rarely at the top of the admiration list. It's a bit like a modern utility worker, essential, but often only noticed when something goes wrong. You might overhear a farmer complaining about the price of a horseshoe, rather than acknowledging the strength and skill it took to make it. You're also on call, practically all the time. A broken tool at harvest time can mean disaster for a family, so you might be pulled from your bed in the dead of night to effect a crucial repair. A nobleman's broken stirrup before a journey means you work through the night to get it ready. There are no business hours, no overtime pay. Your life is dictated by the needs of your community, and those needs are constant and often urgent. This means irregular sleep, interrupted meals, and very little personal time. Historians still argue about the precise work-life balance, or lack thereof, for medieval artisans, but it's clear that their days were often long and dictated by external demands. One quirky tidbit: some blacksmiths would try to instill a sense of awe or mystery into their craft, perhaps by chanting or performing rituals while working, in an attempt to garner more respect or even a slight fear from their customers. This was a subtle way to elevate their status in a world that often overlooked their true value. Despite forging the very implements that allowed civilization to function, from the tools that tilled the fields to the armor that protected the lords, you are a craftsman in a dusty, hot, and noisy shop, constantly working for others, often with little more than a gruff acknowledgement as payment. It's a testament to your endurance, but also a stark reminder of the often unseen burden carried by those who literally built the medieval world. The constant demands and low social standing, while frustrating, often pushed you into a peculiar existence that balanced isolation and community. As a blacksmith, you were integral to your village, yet the nature of your work often set you apart. Your smithy, while physically located within the village, was often a world unto itself. The intense heat, noise, and smoke made it an inhospitable place for casual visitors. People came with a purpose, to commission work, pick up repairs, or perhaps share a quick piece of gossip, but they rarely lingered. You spent most of your waking hours within the confines of your smoky workshop, with only the rhythmic clang of your hammer for company. This daily routine meant a degree of isolation from the social ebb and flow of village life. While the women gathered at the well to chat, or men congregated at the tavern, you were likely hammering away, unable to participate in these casual interactions that formed the fabric of medieval community. Yet, despite this physical and sensory separation, you were undeniably at the heart of the community's practical needs. You were the one who sharpened the scythes that brought in the harvest, the one who fixed the hinges on the church door, the one who shod the Lord's horse. Everyone, from the lowest peasant to the highest noble, if they happened to be passing through, relied on your skills. This created a paradoxical relationship. You were essential, deeply woven into the practical functioning of the village, yet personally somewhat removed. You were a linchpin, a vital cog in the medieval machine, but often a solitary one. Your interactions, while frequent, were primarily transactional. You knew everyone's needs, their tools, their horses, sometimes even their small secrets shared over a commission, but deeper personal connections could be harder to forge. You might know the size of every farmer's plowshare, but not necessarily their family squabbles or their personal joys. This creates a unique form of community integration. You are indispensable to the community, but not necessarily of the community in a deeply social sense. One mainstream historical fact is that many blacksmiths operated as independent contractors, owning their own forge and tools, which further cemented their autonomy but also their professional solitude. This wasn't like being part of a large guild workshop where camaraderie and competition among many smiths would be common. Often, you were the blacksmith for your immediate area. A quirky tidbit: some smiths would pass the time by telling elaborate stories to themselves as they worked, or humming folk tunes, as a way to combat the pervasive silence save for the sounds of their labor. Historians still argue whether medieval artisans felt a strong sense of personal identity tied to their craft or primarily saw themselves as components of a larger societal structure, but for the isolated village blacksmith, both aspects likely coexisted in a complex dance. The rhythm of your hammer echoed through the village, a constant presence that everyone heard, but few truly understood from the inside. The accumulated weight of all these factors, the grueling labor, the constant danger, the insidious health risks, the crude tools, the social slights, the economic precarity, and the unique blend of isolation and essentiality, culminates in the final, most somber reality: a short, hard life. The medieval blacksmith's existence was often one of pain, decline, and an early grave. Consider your body at the end of even a few years in the smithy. Your joints would ache constantly, swollen and inflamed from the repetitive hammering and heavy lifting. Arthritis, a common mainstream historical fact for blacksmiths, would be a daily companion, making every movement a painful struggle. Your hands, once strong and nimble, would be gnarled, scarred, and perhaps permanently deformed by burns, cuts, and the constant vibrations of the hammer. Imagine the persistent throbbing pain in your wrists and elbows, the stiffness in your shoulders that never fully dissipates. Your back, perpetually strained, would be a source of chronic, debilitating pain, making even simple tasks like bending over excruciating. Then there are the less visible ailments. Your lungs, perpetually coated in coal dust and assaulted by smoke, would be struggling. That smith's cough you developed years ago would have worsened, making you gasp for breath after even minor exertion. Chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and other respiratory illnesses would slowly strangle the life out of you, making each breath a conscious effort. Your eyes, constantly exposed to sparks and fine metal particles, would be dim, watering, and prone to infection. You might find your vision failing, making the precision work of the forge increasingly difficult and dangerous. The sheer exhaustion is also a silent killer. The long hours, the constant physical demands, and the lack of proper rest would leave you in a state of perpetual fatigue. This chronic tiredness weakens your immune system, making you more susceptible to every illness that sweeps through the village. A common cold for someone else could be a deadly pneumonia for you. You're simply too worn down to fight it off. There were no retirement plans, no social security. You worked until your body gave out, or until you were too broken to continue. A quirky tidbit is that some older smiths, too infirm to wield the heavy hammer, would transition to lighter tasks, such as sharpening tools or tending the bellows, becoming living testaments to the profession's brutality, their bodies twisted caricatures of their former strength. Historians still argue about the average life expectancy for medieval commoners in general, but it's widely accepted that strenuous, dangerous occupations like blacksmithing significantly reduced one's chances of reaching old age. Your final years would likely be spent in pain and decline, your body utterly spent from a lifetime of relentless labor. The image of the strong, stoic blacksmith might endure in legend, but the reality was a life of hardship, culminating in a short, brutal end, a testament to the raw, unvarnished existence of the medieval artisan. The sounds of the forge now fade completely, the clang of the hammer replaced by the gentle hush of your own breathing. The oppressive heat of the smithy gives way to the comfortable coolness of your room, and the acrid smell of coal smoke is gone, replaced by the fresh, clean air around you. Let the vivid, sometimes unsettling, images of the blacksmith's tough life dissolve into the quiet comfort of your surroundings. Feel the softness of your sheets, the even beat of your own heart. The dangers and hardships of that distant time are far away, left in the realm of history. You are safe, warm, and secure. Allow your thoughts to drift, to settle into the peaceful rhythm of the night. Sleep deeply now, carrying only the quiet understanding of a world long past.